You guys ain't had the you ain't shit lecture yet. Like, you meet the kids who are like, I'm like, you haven't had somebody show you that you ain't shit. And until you have that, until you have that happen to you, you're going to be a fucked up human being.
Thank you, Miss Ochoa.
I know.
Hello, welcome to Survivor's Ed, How to Not Die First in a Horror Movie. I'm Chris.
I'm Tawny.
I'm Miles.
And we are two blacks and a Mexican who like to be scared all the time. So this show is all about how we dive into horror movies of varying levels of quality, some great, some absurd, and some off the beaten path. This week we're talking about La Llorona, a Guatemalan film by director Jairo Bustamante. This is not to be confused with the not so great, very meh Curse of La Llorona that was part of the Controverse. But this movie actually came out in 2020 and got like a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes and was really compelling to all three of us. So we decided to check it out. And this is probably the least known by the public at large movie that we've done. But I think it's one that a lot of people should see. So we're going to talk about it. The story is basically about a Guatemalan general who had a very big hand in committing a genocide 30 years before the events in this movie. And there is fallout when you commit genocide. Who would have thought? And so this movie sort of plays out in a supernatural way what that fallout of his actions actually looked like. So without further ado, what is the situation in La Llorona?
Oh man, there's like a couple of layers, right? So we have the folkloric sort of tradition of La Llorona that I'm American. Like, I'm not gonna front like I'm from Mexico or I'm from Latin America, but I definitely heard my grandma tell some La Llorona stories, and La Llorona was always like traditionally sort of a cautionary figure. She was it was like, be good, La Llorona, like don't venture out. La Llorona is gonna get you, and as I was telling the guys earlier, like, I wrote a paper about this in college. There's the figure of La Llorona. Like, La Llorona is very often in the folklore. She's like a woman who's an indigenous woman who's been maybe had children by lots of times like a Spaniard or a white, like a European. And he betrays her, he leaves her, and out of grief, she kills her children in the river and then like roams the rivers and any waterways, wailing for her lost children and stealing living children to replace her dead ones, right? So she's this sort of like, don't go outside your community sort of warning, or like, don't be sexually, like, don't be with some guy because this is what's going to happen to you.
Don't be fast. Don't trust people. And then there's like, she's often conflated with La Malinche. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but she's the woman who helped Hernan Cortez conquer the Nahuatl, the Aztecs, by being like, she was sort of the communicator. And so like a lot of what La Llorona means is tied up in Malinche, like the cursed woman. So it's never been a good thing. Or any sort of righteous thing. Like, that's not a quality that's associated with Llorona. And what is fascinating about this movie, and what I really appreciated about it, hold on.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
If you haven't seen La Llorona, we will get into spoilers.
Yeah, it's true.
So if you haven't seen it, check out of our wonderful podcast, watch that movie, come back and join in our wonderful discussion.
Now, I'm so mad, like, if you don't say that shit.
Right. What? Now, Oh, you're back. Great. Now,
Excellent.
Tawny, finish your thought.
No, sorry that I don't want to be long winded, but this movie, and I had heard about it because I had seen that shitty Linda Cardellini, and I love Linda Cardellini mostly, but that was just I can't even remember a single plot point, which is saying something because I remember everything about stories.
Same.
I can't remember a single thing. And I remember being like, oh, I got to get around to that. And I have Shudder, and it's a Shudder original. Shudder, the horror channel. If you're not subscribed, like I actually love it. It's full of like fun little gems. But
it's a nice plug. We should reach out to them for some money.
Finally got to it and was not disappointed. It's a beautiful film. It's beautifully shot, and it inverts the meaning of La Llorona to be empowering for Indigenous people, and in a way that feels completely genuine and authentic, and not like some sort of forced, we're going to rewrite this story and make it about the villain or whatever. Like, it's not that at all. It's completely thoughtful and beautiful and true to the spirit of, like, you know, decolonization, that I think is sort of rippling through the zeitgeist at this moment.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not familiar with this at all, obviously. I am not
obviously
any type of Latin descent at all. So yeah. I mean, I did watch that Curse of is it La Llorona?
Llorona, yeah. The R is like yeah.
I did watch that, and that was like, okay, why? Like Tawny, I don't really remember much from that movie. So yeah. But this one, I mean, immediately, I text you guys in the chat, like, this is like hella like A24 style movie, like which is dope that it's a Shudder original, because like I've only heard of Shudder. I've never actually been on there until now, and now that I've gone on there, I'm like, man, I should have had this a long time ago. Like, watching it, I was super impressed. Like, I mean, this is a brilliantly put together film. Like, the cinematography is exceptional. I texted you guys while I was watching it, like the opening shot, I was like, yep, this is my type of movie right here. It just this hooks me immediately. I mean, the acting is great. It's a slow burn, like if you're and which is kind of like the type of movie that I enjoy. I like movies that take its time to establish like what's going on and give me some breathing room. Like it really is not in a rush to tell the story that it's telling. And I'm glad for that, actually, because man, like it just, I'm invested the whole time. I'm creeped out, like subtly creeped out. Like it's not trying to make you jump. And the thing is, like, we're prepped for like horror movies, so we're expecting something to happen at a certain moment. So they're doing this long shot. There's a lot of long shots in this where because you have so much experience with horror movies, you're automatically like expecting something to happen, to jump out. And I was watching it late too. It was like midnight. It's dark as hell. I'm up by myself. I'm looking around, and I have my headphones on. Like when I texted you guys, I was like, I don't know if I should watch this, because I watched it with headphones on. And if you watch it with headphones, it's way more like I have noise canceling, these big ass.
Oh my god! So you're immersed.
So you're immersed in it, and it's way creepier. Like you can really hear the sound design and like the little creaks and cracks and subtleties. So I was watching it, and I was like super into this, and I was like looking over my shoulder every 5 minutes. I was like, this is done like really well, the suspense. But they don't do any cheap scares, which I like. I like that they played it straight. Like, nah, this is not just some typical horror film where we're just gonna do this suspense build up and then something crazy is gonna jump out. I was waiting on that, and I was gonna roll my eyes as soon as it happened, and it never happened. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is my type of film. And again, it subverted my expectations enough to where I was like, okay, damn. Like, not only was this shot well, the screenplay is great, the acting is great. I'm like, but it just kind of did something I wasn't expecting it to do. So, I mean, if you haven't seen this and you saw the other one, please watch this one.
Yes.
So you can like cleanse your mind of whatever you saw in the other one. Because I don't like you said, Tawny. I know you said the story is slightly different from what the actual like folklore is, but watch this one. This one is better. I don't even know if that other one was true to the story or not, but
It fits with it though. Like even though
yeah,
it invert it, like it doesn't cancel it. It like it's more truthful, I think.
yeah,
Like about what the moral you're supposed to take from these events are. Like instead of being like that's a bad woman that slept with someone and had kids and did like
Yeah.
it's like no, those motherfuckers came over and fucked up everybody's life, and that's what happened. And so that's why it doesn't feel like a betrayal, you know, of the folklore. It feels very true to it, and which is wonderful.
Yeah, I think and that's what you just said about it feels like a shift in the perspective, knowing that there's that history. Because what really gets me about this movie, like when I first started watching it, the first portion of the movie, you are following this general and his
Mm-hmm.
family. And it struck me because he's immediately presented as clearly a bad guy, right? Like he's
Mm-hmm.
done these horrible things and everyone hates him for good reason, and he gets away with it. And you're just like put in the shoes of, and then the house literally of what seems to be this protagonist that you don't want to be around, you know, and you
Mm-hmm.
kind of following his daughter and stuff, and you can tell that
Mm-hmm.
she's not on board with who he is, but she's part of the family, so she's here. Um, and his wife and everything. Um, but he's being haunted already, and you can see that. And then when they introduce this character, Alma, it's really interesting because she's this beautiful woman. She comes walking through this crowd, and she immediately makes eye contact with him.
Those
And
eyes.
it's just such an unsettling moment. All she does is look at him. But in that moment, you're like, oh, okay. And she comes in. And what I love about the movie is it doesn't try to obfuscate or hide what's
Mm-hmm.
happening. The things just play out, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
try to, you as a viewer are just following what's happening. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
they don't try to hide the fact that Alma is something different and supernatural, and she's part of this haunting. That is played very openly and straight. It's not like some reveal at the end, like, oh, it was her the whole time. No, you the whole time you're just like, okay, what's she about to do to him? That's what I want to know, you know?
right,
and,
Yeah.
and I actually love it because it's like you're kind of following her and allowing her to kind of sort of as she steps into the story, like I was thinking like, okay, she's definitely like the ghost or whatever you want to call it. She's definitely
Mm-hmm.
like the haunting thing. But there's scenes where you're just with her. Which how
Mm-hmm.
often do you get that in a horror movie where you're just with the
yeah.
ghost or whatever?
That's a good point. Yeah,
And it's such a cool thing because you're like you're then afforded an opportunity to connect and empathize with the ghost.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so creative to me.
It's a
yeah,
completely creative. There are so many little turns, you know. So you know, just to kind of lay out the plot. So you're introduced to this general. He's on trial for genocide, and this is based on. I had it right here. He's based on a real dude, right? Like who? And this
Hmm.
happened. Like he was convicted for genocide, and then it was immediately overturned. And so you know, and I read Rigoberta Menchú is actually has like she says has like a cameo in this, and she was like a part of it, this like freedom fighter for
Oh, really?
yes, she's in it.
Wow.
But so this happens, and meanwhile, like you know, you're sort of you have the perspective of the daughter who's a doctor who's enjoyed all the privilege of being raised as like a white Latino, like a white person in Latin America. The servants are all indigenous looking. Like
Yeah.
that's like right from the beginning. They show the opening scene and then just slowly like the things get filled in. And one of my favorite things is that like they show that the opening scene that with that like really creepy fast prayer or whatever the hell they're doing that looks more like a seance
Yeah.
than a Catholic
that's so
prayer.
dope. I love that shot.
It's so
Yeah.
good. And then they show the guys who are like, all right, you wear the tie, you wear the you know the Windsor knot, and then your shirt has to be perfect. If he goes down, we go down next. And that doesn't pay off until the end of the movie. Like you forget about it kind of like
Yeah.
all the guys who are sitting in the room going like, what do we do if they get the general? And you're like, oh shit. And then there's the trial, and then Alma shows up, and you think that she's going after the girl, like the little girl, like because that's the traditional La Llorona narrative, is she's here for your kids. But and it seems like that, and that's very like deliberate, that it seems like she's trying to, but really she's teaching her how to hold her breath, how to use an oxygen tank to survive underwater. And then the girl, Sara, right? Like she tells her mom, like, she told me not to drown. Like she's not here for the kids.
You like making me like this movie more than like. I mean, I already dug it. I already thought it was like a good movie, but now like that
there's layers.
Now that you're
and the mother when she like when she starts having like the weird like conjunctivitis, and then like has the dream sequences, and she's the snobbiest, like most awful person in this movie. Like she's got cucumbers on her eyes going like, too bad all those people died, you know, like, and the Indian woman's probably your half sister. And she calls them whores. You know, she calls the native women, or the indigenous women, whores, basically. And then all of a sudden she has to feel what Alma went. And Alma, by the way, do you guys know what Alma means?
Mm-mm.
It means soul.
Yo, they snapped. Like they went in. They went in.
Bars.
It is a rich text.
Yeah.
This movie is a rich text.
Man,
like completely.
It's fire, man. The only other thing I can add, like I can't, like, knowing that context just adds so many layers to it, because you can tell he's speaking to folks who already know this stuff, right? And for me, like, learning it within the context of that film just like adds so many layers to it. But
that's the one thing I'll say real quick, like, that I appreciate is, I hate when I see a movie set in a certain culture and everybody there is just speaking English.
Yeah.
Everybody there's British or whatever. Like, typically, I hate that. I'm glad, like, if you don't know, like, this movie is subtitles, like, which for me, I love, because it's authentic. It feels more authentic to me. Like, don't just try to sell. I think, like, and maybe that's why a lot of people maybe don't know about this, because people just struggle with that for whatever reason. Well, I won't say for whatever reason. I understand to some extent. Whenever I watch a movie with subtitles, like, the first 10 minutes for me is an adjustment, because I'm trying to pay attention to all of the imagery, but then I'm also trying to follow the story that's being told, like what the dialogue. So there's like a 10-minute window of me trying to adjust to that. But then after that 10 minutes, I'm comfortably into it and like I'm fine. So I just like the authenticity of the film, of like them making it be set in this, because there's movies that they do that, it's set in a certain place and then everybody's British and speaking English, you know, for the American audience. And I'm glad that they were like, nah, fuck that. Like,
they throw some Mayan at us, and like I remember being like, because I don't speak Spanish, but I know it. Like when I hear it, I'm like, oh, that's Spanish, and I can make out a lot of it. But like all of a sudden, I was like, what the fuck is that? And it's what's the language called? Like I'm gonna get it wrong. Hold on, I looked it up. Do you guys know? Did you look this up at all? It's the language of the Mayan Ixchel.
Oh yeah, I always look up stuff for all of our shows.
Can you remember the name of? But can you remember?
I look up everything.
Well, I didn't know that she was speaking a different. Like, I'm glad that it told me in the subtitles that she was speaking a different a dialect, because I was like, oh, that matters.
It does.
Yeah.
It the thing about the general too, like he killed her, right? Like, spoiler alert. The fact that he this goes to show like what type of like piece of shit this dude is. He doesn't even really recognize her walking up, and there's something there that he feels he's paranoid or whatever because of all the like,
but also titillated.
Exactly. Most like guilty men who are like wealthy and like rich, like do all these terrible things, and then like as they get older they start to regret a lot of the things that they did, and like their demons come, you know, walking up to their front door, literally in this movie. But like the fact that he doesn't even recognize her, like, goes to show you like how much of a piece of shit he was. Like, I don't
He's a
even
piece of
remember.
shit.
I don't even remember you or doing this shit to you. That's how many times I've done this before. That's how many people I've pretty much just treated as, you know, like nothing.
Like they weren't people.
Yeah, like they
That-
weren't human. Yeah.
That fucking scene in the bat, like the scene where he sees her swimming or whatever, and then he goes and she's naked and she's like wringing her dress out in the bathtub. That reminded me so much, like, and I just got this vibe of The Shining, like the look, the expression on Jack's face when he's like he's just like he has this like gross, like lascivious, like I'm just like ugh, like just it grossed me out so bad, and I was just like, I remember like I was watching it at 4:00 in the morning and going like, where is this? Like, my sleep's so messed up, and wondering what are they going to like? What is this director going to do with this? So she's sitting there. She look like however spectral she actually is, and however much of a spirit she is. She has this physical form. She's come back like from wherever to avenge her children. And she's sitting very really on the edge of the bathtub, wringing her dress out. And I remember just being like, wow, they actually, like, where they took that was like, she sees him and she screams like what does she say? Like, he's harassing me or something.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that. Like, I was sort of expecting this passive, like, oh, he's just going to be creeped out or like something. And the fact that they went to this place of like actually acknowledging like this gross old viejo cochino, which means dirty old man. Please memorize that term.
Oh yeah, it's ingrained. It's imprinted.
Viejo cochino, like dirty old man, is like staring at me like he wants to like do shit to me, and it's acknowledged. And that was such an interesting point for me. I wasn't expecting it at all.
And it was good because there was a duality of how she was haunting him, of literally haunting him and sort of unsettling him through these things that are kind of calling back. And then on the flip side, in the real space or whatever you want to call it, also revealing his disgusting nature as well. And the other thing one other thing I wanted to say, the other thing I really love about this is the cinematography, like the filming of it.
It's gorgeous.
I think I texted like the use of still cameras in this. Like, I always sort of, you know, as somebody who tries to do a little bit of filmmaking, like I'm always sort of feel limited by the tripod because I'm still trying to wrap my head around the best ways to sort of use it to create really good, gorgeous shots. And what they do with the still camera in this film, there's so many scenes where the camera is just still and all these things are happening and it's still coming to life, and it actually adds to the tension. And particularly like what the scene I think I really sent a chill up my spine is when what's the daughter's name, Natalia or
Natalia.
She when she goes out there and all the whole crowd is like just staring at her. And throughout the movie, we've seen little, you know, people within the crowd making eye contact. And when you go out there and there's no beat, there's no score in that moment. And to me, that's what was unsettling, is like, usually you get a little pulse or something, like a little, you know, or something. That's just the horror direction, right? There's nothing. She just goes out there and you see it, it's going on, and it just lingers and goes back. And it's just like, that's going to stay in my head for a long time. Yeah. This large group of brown people.
This backdrop, like it's the whole setting is we're surrounded by fucking angry ass indigenous brown people, and it's like, reckon with this shit.
Yeah.
This entire movie is pretty sparse with music. There's some atmosphere stuff and there's some music in some places, but a lot of times it's really it's more atmosphere than it is actual music happening. Like they try to really it really like forces you to like feel like you're in wherever you know this is happening. You definitely feel immersed. And I definitely feel like the film nerd in me like was on the same page as Chris, like just looking at the shots, because a lot of it is just them focusing on one thing. And there's movies where they do a lot of pretty like camera movements and stuff, and this is just them panning in and out of stuff.
Yeah.
They mostly panning out, and the dope thing is like they pan out of stuff, and then the further they get out, the more they just reveal what's going on. Like they show you one thing, and then there's a ton of elaborate stuff happening. Like as you pull out, it's like, damn, there's a lot happening in this room or outside or whatever. They do that like a lot in this movie. Like, and I laughed because I'm watching, I'm like, yo, how slowly are they panning like that? That whoever is doing this is like moving at the speed of like a snail. Yeah,
it's a sloth.
Like
they hired a sloth.
Slow pulling out. Yeah, it's like, but it's effective. It's effective as hell. But I mean, that's a dope movie, man. Even like more like hearing like you explain it more, I'm like, this movie is fire, man. Like, I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it anyway.
You know how we feel about fire.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it anyway. But I'm when you start peeling it back more, it's like that's interesting that they didn't make her a monster. Like, and she's beautiful. Technically, they didn't make her a monster.
She has the fucking glossiest hair of everything. That scene where she comes in and the little girl's like, "I want to grow my hair long," and I'm like, "I want to grow my hair long now."
That scene,
like that was the fucking best hair I've ever seen.
That was so.
In my life.
And I want that dress.
I want that dress
because that's like the urge is in most cases in a horror movie is to show her being beautiful, and then hook you in, and then I was surely expecting it when he walked in the bathroom. She was going to turn around and her face is going to be falling apart or something crazy, some crazy shit, because that's what you do in a horror movie. And no, they didn't. They made him the monster. And
they made him the monster.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I was thinking about the frog, and it's like she shows her the frog, right? And I'm like, is she showing her how to swim? Like, is that the significance of the frog? Like, this girl immediately is like, and the scene, and it's so amazing because she's so creepy. Like, we talked about the scene where she hangs over the bunk bed upside down. You're like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Like, are we in The Grudge? Like, what's happening? And but then like they show her that there's a beautiful scene where she's sitting on the floor and she looks weird as fuck and her hair is blowing. And then they pull out a little bit and it's like the little girl's playing with her. Like she's blowing the hairdryer. And it's so beautiful. Like she's tender and loving and affectionate. And she's the most human in those scenes where she's interacting with the child, and the most ghastly and scary when, this fucking predator is nearby. Yeah. And I think that's fucking awesome.
And I think that gives us an easy segue because when we talk about, in this show, we always have a segment called "You Good, Homie?" And in this scenario, Tawny, who is Homie?
Homie is our girl Valeriana, the one servant who stays behind because she's basically the illegitimate daughter of the general who he just sort of showed up with. And we learned that in the movie. And actually, even before I talk about her, like the transformation of the mother, like of the wife in this movie is kind of amazing. Like she goes from being this like horrible, snotty, classist, racist, aristocrat, to having to be submerged in Alma's reality. And she acknowledges at one point that Valeriana is the illegitimate daughter of her husband, who he brought because he couldn't keep his hands off the Indians, like los indios, I think she calls them, or something like that. She's the fucking one that saves them when everybody shows up at the end to like, when Alma calls all the souls of the desaparecidos, like the disappeareds, back from the grave to show up at this mansion. The only thing that saves those people is that Mayan prayer by Valeriana. So I think that's our keep the culture.
Yeah.
is the rule of survival for this one.
And so we talk about our people in this scenario because some people might not realize, like, when you're talking about in South America, in a South American country where there's a lot of assumptions that we make as Americans that, like, oh, Spanish speaking people, that there aren't still these divides based on colorism, racism. And if you look at this movie, it's like, oh, wait a minute. All the brown people are servants and are outside and are, and in this genocide, when we go back and look at it, who were being slaughtered.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when we go into, like, are you good, homie? Like, I guess that's what I really wrestled with, was like, how did we do in this scenario in terms of, the because, like, yes, in the end, I feel like retribution was taken, but at what cost, And so, like, I feel like it's like one of those. It's almost weirdly parallel to From Dusk Till Dawn, in that, like,
the backdrop is genocide. Like, the backdrop is oppression, right?
Yeah,
that's
wild. And so, like, it creates a scenario where it's like,
but maybe there's a way forward. Like, maybe that's the message of this movie, in that Valeriana saves them all, and it's the wife. Spoiler. I love that move. I fucking love that move. I love that she saw it happen. He shot her, and then they separated at that point, right? Like, spiritually, like, she was no longer, and she was like, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker.
Yeah.
And she did. Like, that brought me joy.
When it cut back to reality and she was, or cut back to present.
And they're just looking at her like,
yeah, that's okay. So, you know how bad you have to be for your whole family to just stand there and watch you get
and just rock with it, like, like, they just cool with it.
In your tank top with your fucking arsenal in your closet or whatever, that people can't keep guns. How does this guy keep getting up in the night and getting guns? Like, what are the bodyguards doing? He's like, just guns. Just say he's shooting people in his sleep.
Like, listen, I know I'm gonna get knocked for, like, ageism or whatever. But listen, man, at a certain age, listen, goddamn it, okay, you don't take the guns away from this dude, please. Like,
put up a child safety gate.
I'm not saying all old people, but some old people. Just sit down, okay? You had your turn or whatever. Like, just sit down, because this dude, he almost shot his wife. Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
He shot his granddaughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, he literally shot. Yeah, he did.
He
shoot
grazed her, but, like, he totally shot her.
That was what. Yeah. Yeah, the right to bear arms is gone for you. The only arms he can bear are his tiny little bat arms. I could
arm wrestle him and win at.
Yeah.
And I'm a tiny woman.
Yeah, he was mad skinny though. Like, dude, get some weight on you, motherfucker.
Which I
like,
love.
oh, what is? Yeah,
I think that probably helped to be the imagery of, this tiny man trying to, who
this pathetic motherfucker.
Yeah.
Well, that's also like, I think, sort of the hard thing about getting older is, like, you become feeble, your body fails on you. And this person who at one point was, this dictator that had control over, an entire, country of people, is now just some old feeble ass man, like, that, couldn't whoop anybody's ass, to be honest with you. Like, that's responsible for killing all of these people. And even the wife, they sort of, like, poke at that as well, with her, like, needing to wear those nighttime underwear or whatever the case is. It's like, when you get older, like, like the shit that you did when you were younger, like it really like age and like time really fucks you up. Like time will show you that like you ain't shit. Like
You ain't shit.
you might have been doing this or whatever when you were younger, but okay, I'm here in the form of Alma, like in this case. But when time, because that's all this is time. When time decides to meet your ass at the door, it's like, yeah, you ain't really.
I fucking love that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I think like when I think about you know, like as a teacher or whatever, I think you guys ain't had that you ain't shit lecture yet. Like you meet the kids who are like, I'm like, you haven't had somebody show you that you ain't shit. And until you have that until you have that happen to you, you're gonna be a fucked up human being.
Thank you, Miss Ochoa.
I know.
And from the bottom of my heart,
true.
it's the most loving thing you can do to somebody is to let them know, like, you ain't shit. You're
yeah,
accountable.
that nobody cares. Like I have friends that are like much younger than me that do music, and a lot of times I give them advice on, you know, how they should go about things, and they have these grand ideas about, you know, who they are as an artist and all these things that they want to do that will be significant to everyone when they do it. And I always hit them with the straight truth. It's like, dude, nobody gives a fuck about any of the things that you just said.
Nobody
I don't
cares.
care that you're releasing this on your birthday and that your mom shares the same birthday and that all this stuff happened on you that day. Nobody knows you. Nobody gives a fuck about any of that stuff. And I'm not saying that stuff is not cool or anything. It doesn't matter if it's cool or anything. The idea is that the world does not give a shit about who you are or the things that are important to you. It's only important to you. And that doesn't mean it's unimportant. It just means it is important to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's like that. I feel like that's something that like eventually as you get older, the world in a roundabout way will
Starts
teach you.
telling you that.
You
And
ain't
that's
shit.
what happens to
You're
this
nobody.
dude. It's like he
you're
had to wait till he
insignificant.
was 85 and had Alzheimer's or whatever, but it's like you ain't shit.
Yeah. That's the thing too. I think that's kind of the message, you know, like to some extent is like, you know, this person at the start of the film is beyond reproach.
Mm-hmm.
Like they literally paint him as beyond reproach. And by the end of the film, those closest to him are super okay with watching him get choked out by
Absolutely.
his wife. And it's like I said. I mean, and I think like the other piece of it is this guy, like we sit and watch this isn't in a different world. He's the bad guy we're watching from afar.
Mm-hmm.
And the intimacy of what we're given in this movie really it's helpful, because how do you can imprint this upon any monster in the real world and understand that like this is just a small man.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter how physically whatever they are, they're still a small man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what a lot of just dictators and just people who have, I mean, you look at somebody like a Hitler who's like,
these are
this
people
dude
with
is
the most
nothing. Yeah. Like,
fragile
weak,
little souls.
very weak people, like not physically intimidating at all. Just a very regular person that just, for whatever reason, their insecurities forces them to do, you know, this horrific stuff to people. And I don't know, like that's, I guess the craziness of specifically for me, men in power. I have issues with men in power. Like I don't trust men in power. Like I just don't. Like I've seen it only go wrong most of the time. I'm not saying everybody, but
I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying everybody.
I'm just saying when you give men too much power,
we be tripping, man.
When you give anybody too much power, and I mean anybody,
specifically men, though.
That's the whole thing of power, though.
I'm a man too, so I'm just observant, like of other like men that I've seen that have grown and like gotten powers.
Look,
like,
you
what's
give
up
me
with y'all, man.
Look,
what are y'all doing,
give
man?
me. I'm gonna, you know, to keep it 100. Like if you give me enough power, I'm gonna start tripping.
I'm gonna start tripping a little bit. I may not. I'm not gonna do like genocide tripping.
Nah,
like,
genocide
tripping is like a little bit too far for me, but I might trip a little bit.
Might trip a little bit. I mean, you know, it's
That's
how it be
funny.
sometimes. I mean, it's so cool to see the. It's interesting because you know you see what happened to Alma at the end. You actually see what happened to her, and that what a complete loss of power she was in that moment. And you, it's I think it's so man. It's like I'm coming to these realizations as we're talking about it, but like I'm thinking about the fact that we spend so much time with her when she's introduced and throughout the film, and but we're not given that. We're not given that moment, even though it could have been given to us because it's kind of already it becomes apparent, you know, that she is a product of his sin in some way. But in the end, we see it then. We see her at her loss of power at the end. And it's
Hmm.
interesting to me because throughout most of the movie, she seems in control of everything
Hmm.
that is happening. And he seems so powerless. And so it's so cool that you don't actually get that moment until the end. Because then it's like it's almost more heartbreaking
Hmm.
because you see what happened to her and you've already her character in your mind is already built to be what it's been throughout the movie, which is like, man, okay, what happened to this woman? Because like she's like a real one, you know. And then you
Hmm.
see it, you're like, man, like and so I don't know, there's something about that imagery too of us getting this swapped power dynamic and in the end getting what the physical reality realm 30 years ago power dynamic was,
Hmm.
and how different it was.
I also like the scene where they're like scrubbing the wall, and she's like asking her all these questions. Like she's suspicious of her, and she's like asking her where she's from, and I forget exactly what she's saying, but it's just something. Yeah, the people from the village, they've never heard of you, or something like that. To
Yeah.
that degree, where I love that scene because she still stays in character. She doesn't really get super flustered. She doesn't talk much, and that sort of is her defense mechanism. Anyways, like she's quiet. She doesn't
Hmm.
say a ton to
She doesn't
begin with.
lie either. She just
Yeah,
she
yeah,
just tells her,
She
you
says
know.
like, what is that? Like she's from. I think Sarah says like she's from a place where there's lots of water,
Yeah,
yeah.
right? Um,
yeah.
and that is something that like the water, the water, the water, and it's just really interesting if you think about what water means, right? Like water, waterways, and this goes back to like, and I've been doing this with my classes, like slave narratives, like the crossing of rivers. Waterways are these sacred spaces, and you know, they're spaces of sort of not instability necessarily, but places where things can change and happen, like where one thing can cross into another thing, and and La Llorona as traditionally a symbol of sort of terror of those spaces. This this version opens it up to um, being maybe spaces of justice, like spaces where wrongs can be righted, you know, and these spaces of waterways and movement. And it's just, it's so beautiful. I really, as much as like, I wish I didn't have to watch it at 4 a.m, um, like, because my life is hell right now. I really was just like, I'm really glad that I saw this movie, and was introduced to this telling because I think it's wonderful and transformational. And I honestly can't. I really want to tell everybody they should watch it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth. I probably at some point will watch this again because there's stuff that I know I for certain like just missed, and like what I almost have to watch stuff multiple times. Like
Absolutely.
I never really get the full thing. Like, and I think that's what art is. Like you're supposed to like. Yeah, I don't think it's just a one time thing. Like, and then like you get everything in one sitting. Like I don't even think that's possible. Like it takes so much to put this stuff together that there's so many details that you would never catch all in one sitting. But I enjoyed this, and it was creepy as hell. Like I put it
That
on.
did you like the gauziness? Just like the gauzy,
Yeah.
like everything. And it reminded me, and I felt like it was really like evocative of, again, the original legends of like the woman in white who like wanders the riverbanks at night. But there's this like mist. There's even like the moment, the part where the Maya Anishil woman is testifying, and she's, you know, they have their veils on. Like there's this sort of like gauzy barrier between experiences, between worlds, that I think carries through the film. Like there were a lot of moments when I noticed how fuzzy or like how diffuse the lighting looked.
Yeah.
You know, like there was sort of like a diffuse quality.
I put it on and then I got up like midway through and went to get something to drink. And I walked in the living room, and again, the house is like pitch dark, and it's like 12:30 a.m. Everybody's asleep. There's no lights on. And I walk in the living room, and my son left like his hat, like sitting on the couch, like in a bundle of clothes or whatever. So when I walked in there, it looked like somebody was sitting on the couch. And I just kind of froze, like, you know, when you like and get like scared like immediately, and your heart just kind of jumps out of your chest. My heart jumped out of my chest, and I was scared as a motherfucker. Like, listen, I'm sorry, okay, I didn't.
Have I not grown out of this yet?
I ain't do it. I don't got no problems. I'm watching a movie right now. I'm trying to, you know, I'm trying to figure out what your story is right now. Like, I'm, you know. All I'm saying is, what I'm trying to say is, I got a family, okay? Like, I just like
negotiating.
Right. I'm copping all types of pleas. Like, I'm just like, yo. And then once I realized what it was, I was like, oh shit, man, I gotta get my life together. That scared the shit out of me, because like, I was like, now who the hell put these clothes here positioned this way with a hat on top?
Who would do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think funny. You know, it's like we say that's unrealistic in scary movies when those fake scares, and it's like, oh yeah,
no, it's real. Your mind plays tricks on you, especially when you're in like a heightened sense of just paranoia. Your mind will start to literally play tricks on you. You'll see stuff that's like, what the hell was that? Like, I'll be sitting here and it's late, and I'm a night owl. I just stay up. I don't go to sleep. And I'm up doing stuff, and if I'm watching something that's creepy, or if I'm just thinking about something, or I'm not thinking about anything at all, I'll just see stuff out the corner of my eye. The light will flicker a certain way from the TV that'll make something else, or something will fall down randomly.
I always see that
randomly.
fucking demon from The Exorcist. You know, like that white
flash
face with the black. I
yeah.
see that shit all the time, and I'm like, oh, come on! Like, are you
that's
serious?
When you know. That's when you know you've consumed one too many horrors based on Guatemalan legends.
What I hate is when it's somebody's birthday in our house, like we always get everybody balloons or whatever, like the helium balloons, and we'll like leave it in the living room or whatever the case, and you know, we'll go to sleep. And like you can hear it like in the night, like balloons just move. So the ones with the helium, like that. And like I'll wake up and like look, and like I'll see the balloon like coming under the underneath into the doorway. I'm like, listen, motherfucker, take your ass back outside the room, okay? All right.
Look,
there's no birthday celebrations in this room.
Exactly.
It's creepy. Like it is like that happened. I think that I think I told you about it, Chris. That's kind of how Paranormal Activity was made.
Oh yeah.
I forget his name, but he was thinking like a detergent bottle or something, or they heard a loud sound like at home.
Yeah.
And him and his girlfriend, they went to investigate it. They didn't know what it was for a couple of days, and then like a couple of days later, they had figured out that some laundry detergent bottle had like fallen behind the washer or dryer or something. It just made this loud banger. And they ended up, a thought just popped in his mind. Like, what if there was a ghost in here? If there was something in here, how would I know that there was something in here? The only way I could possibly know if I just set up cameras and filmed. And he was talking about how if I set up cameras in my house, and I saw the slightest thing, it didn't even have to be anything dramatic. If I saw a door slightly move in the middle of the night by itself, I would be completely freaked out. And that was sort of the whole idea of Paranormal Activity was based off
That's
of him.
awesome. That
He
makes
didn't make the
sense.
movie till like a year or two because he wasn't a filmmaker at
Yeah,
all. He was
yeah.
just some guy that worked for Sony.
That if you have cats though, that like that you're just like it's the cats.
Oh yeah, my cat used to be yo, your cat at night goes crazy. My cat used to be all over the place.
They're in the jungle at night. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
In the jungle.
For reals. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing over there? But they catch bugs and shit, so that's cool.
So this I think that sums up like that sums up this movie, you know? Cats in the dark. No. No, I think what does sum it up is like this was a super unsettling, very like specific kind of horror that we had not covered to this point yet on the show. Our first foreign film I think we've covered it was cool, A Guatemalan Legend. And I think what this sort of rule of keep the culture and the power of the moment of our indigenous heroine of the story is what saves the day, and ultimately the genocidal maniac that we've been following meets his end. I think really makes this a special kind of story because this film it takes everything from a different perspective than what we're used to. It doesn't follow the usual horror tropes, and so I think this is like a movie that I think a lot of people who are listening to this right now, you know, maybe hadn't seen up to this point. And hopefully you have now if you're at this point in the show. And if you haven't, still check it out. It's not like there's a huge twist to it, I would say. It's still a great story. Any final thoughts on La Llorona?
Like, see it. Just see it if you can. Like, if you can manage. If you have Shudder, that's easy. If you're a horror person, but I love my Shudder subscription. It's like $5. So
yeah, it's super
you know.
affordable. Why do we keep
Mhm.
plugging the shit out of but yeah,
know,
like,
right?
like man, it's great. Like it's affordable. You can get it with your family.
'Cause
Like
I
it's everything that you need. Like go get what's their slogan? That's the last thing we don't have is just
what's the other thing that everybody and while you're at it, download Raid Shadow Legends, the app on iOS and Android.
And if you setting up a Squarespace, type in this code. Like everybody got Squarespace. Like go watch this movie though, man. It's a good ass movie. That has nothing to do with what the other thing I just said. But I feel like a lot of these, there's so many movies like this that are like really good that don't get seen because of reasons, and they're small. There wasn't a lot of promotion for it.
I read a review that was like the fact that this is a Shudder exclusive shows the complete lack of imagination of studios.
Yeah,
like that nobody picked this up. It's because it's so good.
Yeah,
there's a lot of
what an
films like
and
that.
Knowing Latinos go to see horror movies more than the average person, like in a statistically significant way, like nobody picked this up. You know?
Well, you know what it is with this movie specifically, like with movie studios, this is not simple. Like it's not easily digestible. It's not just a popcorn film that the jump scares, the stupidity is what makes people spend money on stuff because it's very easy for them to buy into.
Mm-hmm,
like people are fucking dumb. Like let's just be honest. Like people like collectively are pretty stupid, especially in America. We like come on, it's America. Like America likes pretty easy shit. Like we like.
I just
it
saw
easy.
a thing that was like
We like
Americans just don't read. Like the American, and it's getting worse and worse every year. Like people don't read.
Yeah, people
don't.
People like simple. People like simple stuff. Like it's why
but
some
I
of
think,
the most.
I honestly. The dumb thing though is that I think this movie has an audience. Like I think
does.
people,
it definitely
I think
does.
people would pay attention to it. I think people would like it. It's just that it like
it annoys me when movies like this come out that are well like made films, and then people's like critics like it or whatever the case is, or people see. I feel like movies like this always get labeled as being like pretentious or some shit. Like because it's so artistic, it's so thoughtful,
Or just
that
because it's in a different language.
yeah, yeah, that too. People really get irritated when like I've noticed people do not like when filmmakers try really hard to like be
Be
artistic
thoughtful.
and
Yeah.
be thoughtful. People get pissed like when something it's a movie could be complete shit like and terrible, and they'll be like, yeah, but that's what they were trying to do, or like whatever. They'll have an
Yeah, they'll
excuse for it,
justify
and
it.
then like a filmmaker will like really try to be artistic, take risks, and do different things that they haven't seen, and people hate. They get pissed, like they hate it. Like
I
this
do
is
feel
so
that
fucking
that's shifting.
pretentious.
I
Like,
feel that that's shifting though, especially with the success of like the Ari Aster movies and like It Follows, which I think we've sort of briefly talked about. There are some like prestige horror movies that have also earned popular, what's the word?
they are.
Approval.
It just they're like a few far in between. I feel like there are gems that sort of cut through, that transcend even the genre that they're in, like
Yeah.
Hereditary or It Follows. Like they sort of transcend the genre that they're in, where they're not even just good horror movies, they're just damn good movies in general, and they teeter very well on being artistic while also being like digestible, like entertainment. Like I can
Yeah.
Well, and
watch
just like
this and
horrific. Even if
Yeah.
like I think even if people didn't quite maybe pick up on all the notes and all the layers of like something like Hereditary, it was still disturbing enough and worked well enough on this level of just like outright horror that people responded to it.
It Follows is
Mhm.
even a better example of it being successful, because that's a very simple movie. It is not complicated. There's not a excessive amount of layers to it, and it just works. Like you can follow it easy, and it's terrifying, and it's easy
That's
to
the thing.
follow.
Like It Follows was like, so I think we're talking too about there's still a gap though, like for general audiences, because like I think Hereditary was well received from people who love movies, but I know a lot of people like personally who didn't like Hereditary or Midsummer or
My wife hates all of those movies.
yeah, because I mean for them it's just like
they roll their eyes, yeah.
Right, and it's yeah, there's still a gap there, and this movie has all of the. It's a beautifully made movie. We appreciate it. I think people who love movies will appreciate it. I do think there's Bong Joon-ho talked about it, the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles. That yeah, I
That's
mean,
funny.
he talked about the 1-inch barrier of subtitles and how just people see subtitles and they immediately turn away. That's one thing. Two, there's no big stars or no big American stars in it. Like if they remake this with an American director, which has been done in the past, then suddenly it becomes marketable. Or it's too art. Like it's got all the things, usually need one of a certain small list of things for this to suddenly be marketable to American audiences. And this movie doesn't have those things. It doesn't have, it's all in English. It's got an American big star in it. It's a super easy to digest kind of sit down and shove it in my eye holes type of thing.
Shove it in my
so,
eye holes. That sounds awful.
It literally has all that working against it. Like,
right.
It's missing everything to make Americans be like, this is a good movie. Like, Americans will watch this and be like, this is terrible. This shit is boring as hell. This shit is slow. Nothing happened. Like,
I hate that. I hate that. Oh, man. That's what happened with Arrival. Everybody I knew hated Arrival when it came out. And I was like,
love that movie.
I love
so
that
dope.
movie.
Me inside.
So dope.
And they're like, it's so boring. It's like, it's like
nothing happened in it. That's what I'm saying. People are really like basic when it comes to just in general. Like, I mean, it's just the truth about like the United States specifically. It's just basic. People like basic shit. Like they don't like the masses, the general masses. There's an audience, like obviously us, we watch this type of stuff, and Hereditary and Midsummer and even It Follows, which again, It Follows is unique because it does a great balancing act of doing both at the same time, which I think is the key to success. Is this is super entertaining, but it's extremely artistic, to where the people that don't give a fuck about artistic won't even notice that it's artistic because it's so entertaining. Like they won't even that's sort of the key to making it work, is like sprinkling a little bit in for both sides. Because if you just make a straight art film, and man, that shit was pretentious as hell, man. Oh my god, I hate, like, it just they won't like it.
I mean, it's always been, is people don't realize how long that's been the case. Like, you might say, oh, well, what about The Shining? It's like, yeah, Shining got terrible reviews when it came out. I mean, it's like, we appreciate it now, but the artsy elements of what that movie was, the things that were weird and off-putting, people didn't dig it back then. And so maybe similarly, a lot of these films that we enjoy now, some of them are being well received immediately. Some, like this, might take some time for people to come across it, and maybe it'll get the attention it needs. Maybe from being mentioned on a very popular podcast or something. See how it works. Now we're the ones that yeah. So all right, this was real fun, y'all. Like I to be fully transparent, we were really trying to figure out how to tackle this film, because it is not an Anaconda.
It's not Anaconda
or a Dusk Till Dawn. But this is great, and we're so super excited to have been introduced to this film and have this really good conversation about it. So next week we'll be talking about another movie, probably not something this heavy, but another movie, and coming up with another rule for how to survive. Oh, I shouldn't say how to survive, how to not die first. At least in a horror movie. So if you're listening on Spotify, please share this, any podcast network, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Pear Podcasts, whatever, we're probably there. We're also on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, please leave a comment. Please just like this video, subscribe, do whatever you can to support this. We're really trying to grow this audience and the conversations that we're having. And please just be a part of this community. The Two Blacks and a Mexican team, we're coming up with all kinds of new ideas. Follow us on Instagram. We've got some really great content on there. We had like 2 posts for a long time, but now we got like more than 2 posts, and that's pretty dope. And just follow us in any way that you can, and show love to this community, and we'll definitely show love back. We'll see you next time.